The button has been pushed. Hello and welcome. How's it going, Shay?
I am doing wonderful, Cody. How about yourself, bud?
Man, I can't tell you how excited I am for this conversation today because not only do we have Katie Hartford Hogue, but we have Megan Lynch Chowning with us today.
That in always gets everybody.
Because I'm like, oh man, I'm a KODI, so I always tell people Cody like Kodiak, so they butcher it constantly. Yeah. And then my last name's Nottingham, and they think it's like Taya Nottingham, and I'm like, no, like Sheriff of, like, come on, like, yeah, be like, but we'll get there. So no, and I mean, but there is winning in bluegrass, and so we have you, lovely ladies, on to not only talk about John Hartford and his legacy, but this amazing project that you guys have been a part of, and the second volume of the FiddleTunes project through John Hartford. And I'm so excited that we have Katie, which is John's daughter, here, for those of you that don't know, but for Megan to be here as well, because Megan, from my understanding on this project, you kind of helped connect some of these dots from bringing these pages to life, right?
Well, God, I hope so. That would be such a treat to think that that's how it comes across. I have now been involved with this project for, I don't know, 6 years, something like that. And it's just been an absolute delight to help. Yeah, to the tunes starting from the page and then getting to play them, share them with people, teach them to people, and help reach out and find more and more artists to record on this latest album. So lots of hats, a lot of hat wearing.
Oh, for sure. But that's not something that you're not used to, right? So for those of us that don't know, and a lot of the times what I tell people on here, so like our podcast sprung from a more progressive and jamgrass scene, but the love of traditional bluegrass is really what got me there originally. So once I was given a chance to share our love of music, I want to talk with people about like the foundational stuff. And so like Megan, if you could you tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from?
I grew up in Northern California. I was born in the Bay Area, but grew up in Redding, California. And a thing that many people don't know unless you're from Redding and you tell everyone all the time incessantly is that Redding, California is an absolute hotbed of traditional fiddle music. It's a strange place that would happen, but being from there, I grew up around a lot of fiddle players, a lot of people who taught and played and performed and competed, all with traditional American fiddling, specifically sort of a combination of what we would consider to be Texas style fiddling and Western swing. You have to remember a lot of this stems from the Dust Bowl, migration, right? Coming out of Texas and Oklahoma, moving into Bakersfield and then up, into more Northern California. And then also we had a funny little thing happen in 1976. Jana Jay, who some people know from Hee Haw and her brief marriage to Buck Owens and things like that. Jana Jay came up to Redding, California and taught a fiddle class at the community college. And it just sort of exploded this fiddle scene in Redding. And so I grew up thinking everybody played the fiddle. I just thought it was like a normal thing. I don't know. So, but my grandfather loved the Grand Ole Opry, loved Jimmy Rogers, loved, Ray Price and Mel Tillis and a lot of those, kind of fiddle heavy, old, classic country artists and bluegrass. A lot of Flat and Scruggs got played in my household and things like that. So I started competing when I was 5 and I won a lot of contests. That was a thing.
Quit being so humble. Like, what kind of contests would those be, Megan?
I am the 7-time national fiddle champion, so that's
just lucky number 7. Who would have thought? She's like, I've won a couple competitions here and there, and like I was setting you up, Megan, because I wanted to know how you would introduce yourself. Because for me, I would come out swinging, be like, "Are you kidding me? Like, here comes this lady who has not done this once, twice, 3 times." 7-time national fiddle champion from Redding, California.
I know. At one point, there were more state and national fiddle champions from Redding, California than anywhere else in the country. I'm telling you.
That blows my mind. I had no idea. That's so cool.
the water there is very chlorinated and also full of fiddle tunes. So
It's in the water.
what we do. It's what we do. And I will tell you, and I need to throw this in there, and this is a story that I told the very first time we performed as the John Hartford FiddleTune Project. In 1986, I was 11 years old, and a friend of the family invited me to come to the Strawberry Music Festival. I wasn't doing a lot of festivals. I was mostly doing contests at that time, just as a kid. That was kind of what I was into. But he said, John Hartford is going to be performing at the Strawberry Music Festival up kind of near Yosemite in Northern California there. And I want to bring Megan up there. I think she needs to see John Hartford. And so my mom threw a tent at me and said, off you go, So we went up there and I set up my tent and I did the whole thing, and I went to go see the first John Hartford set, and I stayed for about 2 tunes. I did not understand this man's hat, the vest, the dancing. The whole thing was
That's incredible.
Playing a banjo, stopping the tune with his feet.
What was even happening? I did that. I was stunned and weirded out and just was like, I don't get it. And so very sort of stealthily, I moved over to what I saw a bunch of people walking over to another stage. They had 2 stages, and I followed that group of people. I sort of ducked out or dipped, as I would be what I would say today. And I walk over, and the band playing on the other stage was Newgrass Revival. And so I was like, well, this is my future, right? Cut to 2025, and here I am on a podcast talking about co-producing the John Hartford FiddleTune Project. And I told that story the very first time that we played, and about halfway through the story, I look out in the audience and I see Katie, John's wonderful daughter, who has been at the helm of all of this incredible stuff. And I started kind of backpedaling. I thought, oh God, this isn't appropriate. I'm like trashing her dad on stage, and so I sort of tried to make my way through the rest of the story, and I get out to the car and I see this text from Katie that said, that's okay. I thought my dad was weird too. But what the most amazing part about all of this, this is literally yesterday, I went to the post office and mailed a CD of the John Hartford FiddleTune Project Volume 2 to Dean and Yvonne Boring. Dean Boring was the man who took me to that festival in 1986 and tried to explain why I would love John Hartford. I didn't, but I wrote a whole thing about I didn't get it then, but rest assured, I made it. I got there, and here we are. And so to be able to do that for somebody who showed an interest in sharing music with me all these years later, that's one of the most personal victories and, just amazing feelings that I've been able to get from working on this project. It's been a really full circle moment for me.
That's amazing.
I didn't get it, Katie. I just didn't get it. But, we're here now. And that's what matters.
So, Katie, do you remember that moment when Megan's up there trashing Dad?
Yeah. That's the thing. The 1986 Strawberry Music Festival John Hartford show is available on YouTube. So you can go see what I walked away from.
So for all the people listening, when you see the social media posts that I make, clipping the YouTube video and Megan's story, now you'll get it, right?
Now you'll know why. That's it.
Oh, that's so cool. So, Kate, you obviously remember, right? But for those of you that don't know Katie's story and your dad, and my understanding was you didn't have him in your life for a while, and now right now your life is encompassed with your dad and his works. Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's a connection issue with you, Katie. Are you on the Wi-Fi or are you on you are? Why is it so? Is it bad for all of you?
Yes.
No, it's Katie, you're at a Starbucks and you're on Wi-Fi with 35 other people.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah, that's it.
And there's nothing you can do about that.
So try going. Do you have good service? Try turning off your Wi-Fi and doing it through your service if that's possible. My bet is yeah, but I think they're all right and you're also on a little bit of a delay. So here's what my plan is going to be. Okay, it's going to take me a little bit longer to edit. I'm going to interview Megan. And then Katie, when you get to a better place, we can call you and I can interview you. And if we need to, I can bring in Sharon at that time too. But I can take care of, and because I have lots of questions that I want to focus on with Megan, and then I can edit some stuff to make it work. Okay.
You are. That is true.
But that's what I'm telling you is I will make it in the same frame. If you can find a place after we're done interviewing with Megan, I can talk with you and I can edit. Yes, and I can put us on the same screen, and I will edit the stories because I'll remember what I asked Megan, and then I can ask you and splice you guys together, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
This is what happens, by the way, when you get women co-producing a record. People are choosing jackets based on wall color, so that's a thing.
That actually ties directly into a question I had. That's hilarious.
Well, and time out, because had I said something like that, I would be canceled in a second, right?
You would be so far out.
Get out of here. So Shay, ask your question.
Yeah. Well, so I'm super curious about it, and my assumption is yes, it's intentional. But as I go to bluegrass shows, and I've listened to this stuff since I was a kid, women have become more and more prominent in bluegrass recently. So I'm assuming was that a direct creative decision to have the all-female performers for these albums, or was that something? Did it just kind of happen that way?
No, completely and totally on purpose. However,
yes.
I will tell you, and this is something that as a woman in bluegrass we wrestle with. The management of this as an idea, right? So Katie came to me probably, one of the things that you've got to know about Katie is that she is her father's daughter. She was not raised by John for many, many years, but genetics are a powerful thing.
Yes.
And the moment something is completed, Katie's brain immediately flips to whatever is next. She has so much vision, so many ideas, all sorts of, and it never stops. So once you get involved with Katie, look out, because this is...
You're along for the ride.
You're along for the ride. Exactly. So that said, when volume 1 was complete, about 5 minutes later, Katie contacted me. I had played on volume 1, and I was the copy editor for the John Hartford FiddleTune Project, the book, the Hartford's Mammoth Collection. Yep. That's how I met her in the first place, was being copy editor on that book.
How did they find you to do that?
So my best friend designed the book. This is the most backwards thing ever in the normal sense of things. So my very best friend in the whole wide world, Mary Sue England, incredible performer, songwriter. We met playing in the Pam Tillis band together. And so we were doing that, and we were on the road together, became dear friends. She is also a book designer. Her mother was a publisher. She's a book designer, does lots of album cover design, all that kind of thing. She was recommended to Katie by somebody, one is a friend of a friend, and started working on designing the book. That was the first step in this process, was Hartford's Mammoth Collection, the book. And about halfway through, Katie said, it's starting to be a lot of text, a lot of stories, a lot of things. I'm going to need somebody to come in and copy edit. And Mary Sue said, I kind of have the perfect person. I think she's a copy editor / fiddle player. That way she'll not only understand sort of the
7-time national fiddle champion,
but also what really needs to be said in terms of the fiddle playing and things like that. Also, of course, being super familiar with John Hartford, the thing about John Hartford is you can't exactly copy edit him, because some of the things that he says are funny on purpose, right? And so you have to be, like, if you just hired a random person, it would just be marked up in red forever. It would just be a disaster.
That is, yes, that's incredible. That's very spot on, yes.
What if somebody who just does that for a living was handed a piece of, a John Hartford
What does this mean? Cross out. This doesn't make sense. Yeah. Cross out. That's not relevant. Cross out. So it's like, no, man, you don't get it.
Yeah. Right. And this isn't even a real word. Yeah, I know, but
yeah.
It's a John Hartford word, and that, that kind of thing. So I got involved in that way. And then, Katie and I started to get to know each other. And then all of a sudden the volume 1 is going to come out. She said, you have to play on that. So I did, which was great. And then as volume 2 is sort of coming to a close in terms of being released, she said, well, volume 2 is next. And I want it to be about the women. That's very important to me. She said her dad was one of the first full-time country performing artists who carried women in his band, not as a novelty, but just as part of the band.
I did not know that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of, Holly Odell, who is actually on volume 2. We're so proud to have her on there, was in John's band very early on, playing fiddle, and she's a big part of this story. When John was diagnosed with cancer in 1980, thereabouts, there was this big shift in his mindset, and he decided to set the banjo down more or less and really focus on the fiddle. And at the same time, he decided he really wanted to learn to read and write standard notation in terms of music reading and writing.
And boy, did he.
Boy, did he. But you look at the early notebooks, it is a hot mess. It is, I mean, the bar lines he's just making up time signatures. He's just winging it. But that's how John, if you look through all of the archives, that's how John taught himself to do everything, was just trying it, making a hot mess of it, and then figuring it out along the way. He was
Kodi and I are familiar with that process.
Very, very, very well. Now, I don't know if you've seen recently. Fail forward, Megan. We fail forward. We just keep going.
Always the intention. That's where we're going. But it is so Holly Odell, who was classically trained but playing fiddle in his band, really helped him early in that process and was a big part of getting him moving in the right direction. And so the next 20 years of him writing these 68 spiral bound notebooks full of thousands, literally thousands of tunes, are that process happening in real time. He wanted to understand the fiddle. He wanted to understand fiddle tunes. He wanted to understand fiddle players. And he also wanted to understand standard notation and how it worked, and being able to create it himself. As an artist also, and the thing that I love about the book, we see his actual handwriting. It's not just, so I have, because I'm practicing for rehearsal right now, I have this printout of just the Sibelius, written in one of the tunes, Spirit of the South, that Sharon recorded on the album. And these are certainly easier to read, but in the book, you get to see how he actually drew it, because to him, it was also an art project. It's beautiful. His standard, eventually, like I said, the early ones, they had a little work.
You hear Chinese the first time and you don't necessarily understand it, but after you're encompassed with it for your life.
Yes, then you can actually start to make art from it. And so Katie came to me early on and said, we work together well. I like working with you. Would you produce this second album? And I said, absolutely not. It is not in my wheelhouse. That's not, part of my skill set. And I still stand by that. It is specifically producing a record is not what I do, and it's not really what I want to do necessarily. It was never something that I particularly have been shooting for. However, I had just worked with Sharon doing some band coaching, which was with a young bluegrass band in the Bay Area. They had flown us both out to work with these incredible young musicians. We knew that we could work together, and I knew that Sharon had been producing records. I knew that she had a real ear for it and a real desire for it. So I said to Katie, eventually, kind of talking through it, I thought, wait a minute, if we can get Sharon in here, and I can do the thing that I'm more comfortable and feel more strong about my ability to do, which is logistics and idea, bringing people together, thinking about, who would work well together, things like that. And Sharon can be the ears of the operation. That would make sense to me, and that would feel right to me. So right off the bat, though, we felt, we had our first meeting. We talked about having, all the different women on the record. And I think that all three of us will say the same thing, which is early on, one of the first gifts of this album was realizing how long of a list we had of these women artists that we wanted to include. We realized that even 10 years prior, we would have had to work a lot harder to kind of get the women have always been there, but their visibility has changed so dramatically. And so we're writing this list, and we're in this cafe, and we're, eating lunch, and what about blah, 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 and what about, and the list just kept getting longer and longer. And we sort of stopped and went, this is incredible that we have this many women that we're that excited about. We love what has happened with the music. And so, of course, not everybody's schedule lines up and not, what all that stuff. And we certainly didn't get everybody. And also, eventually, we have to stop putting songs on the record, actually put the thing out. But then I do want to point out, about halfway through doing the album, one of the artists on the album said, "Are you going to market this as an all women's album?" And we said, "Well, yeah, probably." And she said, "Or you could just let people notice." When the Bluegrass Album Band put out volumes 1 through 6, nobody put on the poster, "Congratulations to this all male album."
Yeah. yeah.
And she said, maybe it's just something that people notice or they don't. And if they notice and they ask about it, we talk about it and, and talk about how excited we are for all the different people on it, the record and whatever. And if they don't notice, well, okay, it's just another album out there.
I love that she didn't want you guys to lead with that, right?
Yeah.
Because it kind of takes away from it in
Exactly.
a sad sense. Because like when you listen to this album front to back, you don't hear female musicians, right? You just hear beautiful music and amazing people that are great at their craft.
And that was the hope. And it was such a revelation for us. And I do think that one of the big, another big gift of this was having such a wide range of ages on this album, because as, women in this music, we are, I'm 50, we're all kind of in this same age range. Katie, Sharon, and I won't out them, but I'm happy to out myself. I just turned 50. And so my
Happy
generation
birthday.
has gone through a certain number of things. We've landed in certain places and we're, proud of what we have accomplished coming up in this music. But the younger generations have some new viewpoints and some new worldviews to bring to the discussion. And we would be doing a disservice to all of our generations if we weren't listening to the way that they are approaching this discussion. And so we very quickly, the three of us got together and kind of said, yeah, that really resonates for us. And so we're excited if people, we just figure it's a win all the way around. If people notice it and they're stoked about it, then we're stoked with them. If they don't notice it and they're just stoked about the album, great, fine too. And just to normalize, and instead of tokenizing the all women aspect.
Why not both? Okay.
Why not both?
Why
That's
not
it.
both?
Thanks again for taking the time to talk with us today. This has been great so far. Yeah, this is so much fun.
I just I've got a bunch of projects that I'm on deadline for.
Oh, I know.
So you know how it is, and so I'm feeling like I don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul, and I appreciate you guys.
One of the things that's been so interesting about doing this podcast with Kodi is, as just a fan, from the fan perspective, until you start talking to artists, you don't really understand how busy they are. Like,
No.
we've talked to people and been like, hey, can you chat with us? And they'll send us their schedule. Like, bro, if you can find a time, good luck. And it's just like event, travel, event, travel, practice, right, event. It just never stops.
Yeah. I mean, if Spotify paid any money, I think, we'd all
I could scream at you for hours about that. It is what it like. I mean, I'm not a performer, but I've got a lot of friends who are, and obviously I meet a lot of people that are performers through doing this podcast, and it's criminal. Like, you hear those stories about bands being like, hey guys, can you play our album on mute all night every night so I can pay my rent? And it's like, oh, you're kidding me, guys. Yeah.
It is it's really I am so grateful because I do not tour for a living. I haven't toured for a living in a long time, but I did do it. I did 200 dates. I was gone 200 days a year for, over a decade. And, but that was never actually my life's work. It was never to be I am a teacher and
oh, that's awesome. What do you teach?
And community organizer. That's what. Well, I teach the fiddle.
Fiddle. That was a dumb question, but I had to ask.
No, not at all. I mean, I for about 5 minutes thought about teaching in public school. I was heavily involved in show choir and jazz choir and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
I mean, you can tell from meeting me. I have a show choir director personality. This is part of
That's Megan saying she gets shit done.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm not afraid of a sequin. You know what I mean? So,
that's awesome.
In that sense, but I went back and actually sort of shadow taught with my director when I was about 20. and realized very quickly that the public school system was not for me. So now at this point, I teach full time. I do Zoom workshops. I create educational content. I write fiddle books, and my husband and I run 9 bluegrass and old time music camps at our house every year.
That's awesome. That's great. Both my grandparents and my mom, my father, and my brother are all teachers. I'm the only one that's not a teacher, so I respect the hell out of that.
You might be okay then. The rest of us are.
No,
I'm going to be honest
Megan,
with you.
No,
they told me not to teach.
Yeah.
They were like, "Don't do it."
Just give him a couple more minutes, and you'll realize that you don't need to make that statement.
Love you, buddy.
I love you too, Stud.
So much love.
We know our strengths and our weaknesses, right?
That's it.
And that's just kind of what you do.
That's just what you do.
Right? But so, like, it's cool because for us, like, we don't want to see women. Like, we joke, like, my wife is a gender and women's sexuality studies major in college, right? So, like, used to be like, this is what a feminist looks like, right? Like, woo.
Yeah.
Like, my wife's senior thesis was about not the gentrification of children, right? And so our first child, she tortured me because we didn't get to find out the sex, and our baby's name was going to be Logan, whether it was a boy or a girl. Had it been a boy, it would have been Logan Sheriff Nottingham, which would have been fucking awesome. Okay.
I can't believe she would allow that.
No, before I got married, I made her promise me. I said, "Hey, listen, if I have a son, I want his middle name to be Sheriff." Like, you can't miss that opportunity.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think there is at least a 50% chance that she did find out the sex of the baby and just didn't tell you. That way allowed you to think that this is the thing that would have happened.
Let her ride. Well, so we got Logan Leilani. She's beautiful, and I'm so blessed, and I love it. And it's low, right? And she's amazing. And, like, you don't need to see something for what it is other than what it actually is, right? And so this album is awesome. And it's funny because you're like, hey, we have this long list of all these female musicians that want to do it. Well, guess what? You also have this like laundry list and then some, like a mile-long scroll of all these songs. So like, how did you pick because is there 18? I feel like there's like a million. But was it 18 on the album?
Yeah, it is, which is why we ended up having to do 3 sides on the vinyl. They can only fit so many.
Well, I mean, at that point, you should have just done the 4th.
There was talk. I think there would have been a mutiny at that point. There had to be a stopping point at some point. That said, to answer your question, so there's been a narrowing process all along the way. The 68 spiral bound notebooks have somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 tunes in them. And, I know Katie she was there when they were discovered and, can kind of speak to that process. But she brought in Matt Combs, who a great fiddler, educator, and producer of Volume 1. Who really understood, who learned a lot from John Hartford, knee to knee in those later years of John's life. And so she brought in Matt. Matt went through the books, found what he believed to be sort of the most representative, complete tunes, 176 of them, to put in the book as a way of saying, here's enough of them that you get the idea of what's happening. And then the book also includes interviews, a lot of John's original sketches, and descriptions of the tunes.
It's an amazing book. It literally, it has everything. For any bluegrass fan that doesn't know or doesn't understand, like when Megan first saw John Hartford and like didn't get it, this book will help you get it. And
that's exactly right. And I actually think that being the copy editor on the book was the beginning of my transition into really, of course, through my adult life and through playing bluegrass and old time music and stuff, you're gonna play some John Hartford covers. You're gonna do, that sort of was happening. But to get it, the book is what did it for me, because now I'm seeing the 360, right? I'm reading interviews with other people that he influenced. I'm seeing the sketches. I'm, playing the tunes, all of that. That was the understanding for me, was the book. And so now we've got 176 tunes. Then it comes to Volume 1, and I don't know So volume 1 is a lot of Matt Combs with kind of a house band with Ronnie McCurry and other amazing musicians. And then there are several guest artists, of which I am one. I can speak to the fact that Matt basically just texted me and Tristan Scroggins, dear friend, and also plays in the John Hartford FiddleTune Project live show, and said, okay, we want you guys to do 3 tunes on the record, go through the book. Here are the ones that have already been chosen. Pick your 3. So
wow. So you got
that was it.
That's
It
cool.
was just do what you want. I chose John Rice. Tristan and I decided I would pick one, he would pick one, and then we'd choose one together, as a joint thing. And then we played all 3 of them together on the record. I chose John Rice as an example out of the book because I flipped through the book and I found the easiest tune in the book. And the reason I wanted to pick the easiest tune in the book is I wanted to appeal to the greatest number of people, because Katie told me early on that her overall vision for this entire thing is to get people playing these tunes, is to invite people in to a greater John Hartford legacy than they knew even existed to begin with. And it's to say, great, thank you so much for learning Tall Buildings and Gentle on My Mind and, a little bit of that. What about all of this? And what about the fiddle players who love old time music and love all the different styles or whatever it might be, old time Western swing, Texas style, Canadian, Irish. There are a lot of different kinds of tunes just in the book alone, let alone in the 68 notebooks. And so when I saw John Rice, I thought, I could teach this to my most beginning students. And this means that even a brand new fiddle player could play an undiscovered John Hartford tune. And it's a really sweet little melody, perfectly lovely little tune. And I knew Tristan and I could have a blast with it and just take a really simple tune and make it kind of rock out, and then it would be super fun for people. So that was my thought process in choosing that particular tune. Cutting to volume 2, we did the same thing. We have the list, the 176 tunes. Here are the tunes that were recorded on volume 1. Here are some tunes that other people have asked to put on hold, for other projects, whatever. Here's what's available, and here you go. Choose your tune. Now, this is an important part of the project, and Sharon actually has a lot to share on this part of the journey, but there are no chords. John wrote no chords for any of these tunes.
Oh,
that's helpful.
Wow.
So
you just got to pick one and run with it?
You just got to pick them and run with it. So I will tell you, for example, the hit, quote unquote, doing my air quotes, the hit from volume 1 is definitely Tennessee Politics is the name of the tune. A lot of people are learning it. It's becoming kind of a jam staple. Tristan Scroggins called me from Rocky Grass this year and said, oh my God, people are jamming Tennessee Politics. Yep. It's like 3 a.m. and people are jamming Tennessee Politics. Katie's vision is coming to fruition. It's happening, right? And it's a good tune. It's a super good tune. We play it always in the live show. People love it. It's super fun to play. But it has a really cool chord progression. And that chord progression, I imagine, is Matt Combs is doing with his house band, because he's the one who recorded it on volume 1. That chord progression is a big part of what hooks people into loving the tune. And so, while it is extremely unhelpful not to have chords, it's also kind of exciting because everybody got to just choose, build a chord progression based on what they think sounds good. Sharon was really, really helpful with a lot of the artists that were coming in on volume 2. That was a big part of what she did as part of her production duties. She was listening and doing tones and, helping arrange and all that stuff. But those chord progressions, she was a part of a lot of that process. Some of the artists came in and said, I've got it. I know exactly what I want to do. I got to be around for, some of the rehearsals and watching people kind of, wait, what if we put a B minor right there? I think it's better with D. Let's try it both ways. What do you think? That's a really understood part of this process, is that people don't realize that everybody had to come up with the chord progressions for the tunes.
That's so wild, but also so cool, because it's okay, well, I know this master baker made this with these ingredients, right? Everything's on the table. But now you have to figure, how did they do it? Or what was it? And even whatever you guys create may not be exactly what he had in that time or in that room or wherever he was.
Absolutely not.
But it's still something so beautiful and amazing.
And that's folk music, baby. That's the thing. That is how you get to the essence of folk music right there. Because everybody's vision, I love me some Bob Dylan songs, right? Sure, who doesn't? But people have like recorded new versions of Bob Dylan songs with some different chords and stuff. And some people lose their minds over that, right? They go,
You
how
can't
dare
do
you?
that. That's
You can't do
sacrilegious.
it.
Yeah.
Sure you can though.
Yeah, but
Because
it's
here's the
awesome.
thing.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. It's a new folk music is meant to evolve, grow, change, and be interpreted. It's music made by folks. This is just, it's the human condition, right? Right there.
It's a living, breathing thing. Yeah.
Yes. And that's why you guys have a freaking jam grass podcast, for God's sake. You understand the jam in the middle of whatever, name your jam band tune, is going to be different on different nights. And these are the people who wrote the song, quote unquote, but they're going to feel it differently. They're going to interpret it differently based on whatever they had for lunch, what's happening, is it raining? That's ultimately, we can go into all the subgenres of, jam grass or old time, whatever. It's folk music. That's what it is. And that is what it is meant to do. And when we did a thing called Hartford's Mammoth Marathon back in October, it was starting out to be a fundraiser for the album, but it was actually turned into a fundraiser for victims of Hurricane Helene and all of our musician friends who really have and continue to struggle. So don't forget, donate and make sure those people have instruments and houses and food. But that to say, what happened was Brittany and Natalie Haas played all 176 tunes in the book,
wow.
straight through.
That's cool.
With a rotating cast of backup musicians. It's all available on YouTube. Go check it out. It's chapter by chapter, chapter 1 through 10 from the book. It's stunning. It was an incredible accomplishment. But all that to say, I've been playing some of these tunes live as part of the show. And so the musicians that I have that we play together have come up with chord progressions. But Sharon and Daryl Anger wrote a bunch of the chord charts for this event. And I'm standing there going, wait, that's not where I put the G chord. That's not where it switches to the 4. That's it, but that's what they heard. And it was magical. It was magical to hear just, some of the simplest little differences and changes. And so to have something like this that is in one place so incredibly comprehensive and overwhelming, but also so incredibly vague and unfinished, it's pretty badass, right? Like
it's really badass. And so now I want to know, like, where can people come and see you? Where can they see the project live? Like, obviously we'll plug all the places that they can listen to and the YouTubes, but like this, going and seeing live music, whether it's just 5 people in a circle around a fire or it's at a beautiful venue, it matters, right? So where can people come and see you, man?
Well, number one, I want to say that in almost every case, if you see the John Hartford FiddleTune Project playing somewhere near you, because we're all, have full-time things that we do, we don't get out as much as we would like. And it is a rotating lineup. I'm in some of them. I won't be in some other things. I've been sort of shepherding it a little bit in the early days, but it's now, Katie's vision was always that it would be kind of a, evolving thing, which I love. And it should be, because again, folk music, this is what it's supposed to do. But when you see that we are playing somewhere, know that in most cases, there will also be a workshop attached where you can come and learn some of the tunes.
Oh,
that's
so cool.
Just performing, but we're teaching these tunes. Again, we want people to play them. That's a big part of what we're doing here. So bring your instrument, whatever. And by the way, on my song on the album, so I co-produced it, but I also got to play a track on volume 2 as well. And I'm doing a duet with an oboe player, friend of mine. So I don't care what you play. Bring it. We're into it. We're stoked. Come play Hartford tunes. Don't care. Harpsichord. Fine. Truck that sucker on up.
I desperately want to start seeing oboes at bluegrass picks now. That's great.
If I see even one oboe I will have won. I will have won this. I will be so stoked. So that said, I want people to know that this is an interactive thing. I want people to bring instruments and be a part of this. Coming up, we've got 3 festivals that we're doing. One is the Folky Fish Festival at Merrimack State Park in Missouri. We did that last year, and it is a gorgeous state park location, beautiful, super good lineup. Daryl Scott, Michael Cleveland, like a bunch of really cool bands. It's going to be awesome. And then in June, we're going to be at the Cowichan Bluegrass Festival, which is out in British Columbia, out on the island there. That is a fabulous festival. And it's got, Brad Klodner and George Jackson are going to be playing as well. Cody Norris show. Like it's traditional bluegrass and old time. And it's
awesome.
a really fun festival. And we're doing big workshops at that one for sure. And then another lineup of the FiddleTune Project, well, I mean, most of the same people, just not me, is going to be playing at the Scruggs Fest, Earl Scruggs Fest over Labor Day weekend. So, those are some things that are coming up. And we do, house concerts throughout the year and different things. And again, workshops all the time, stuff like that.
And don't forget to plug, where can they find you? Are you still taking people on? Yeah.
So the main thing that I do these days, so I teach private lessons, although not very many these days, but still can do. And then I do Zoom workshops twice a month for bluegrass and related genres, and people come from all over the world. We've got such a cool group, and you can jump in anytime, and we do a different topic every month. And it's, we learn classic bluegrass breaks, but we also work on technique, all kinds of stuff, and all abilities welcome for those. And I also am an instructor on fiddlevideo.com. All of my stuff is at fiddlestar.com. That's all me, anything there. But the main thing that I do that I love more than anything, my husband and I run 9 bluegrass and old time music camps every year at our house. And people come and stay at our house, grown people. It's adults only, it's 18 and over, and we get the greatest instructors, and we teach clawhammer, banjo, mandolin, fiddle, singing, jamming, whatever, flat pick
There's
guitar.
some awesome videos from past camps, like sitting in it's very, very cool. And it's
only 15 campers and 4 instructors, so it's like, you just hang out in my living room and play tunes with your heroes, and it's the most wonderful weekend, of the year, I think, for a lot of people. And I'm so proud of that. So that's at NashvilleAcousticCamps.com. So Nashville Acoustic Camps, Fiddlestar, those are the things. And yeah, I'm in the process of writing a few more books that, all of that stuff's available on, over there at the Evil Empire. Listen, what are you going to do? And I'm so grateful to the incredible musicians who inspired me. I learned a ton working on this album, and it improved my own fiddle playing, just watching people work through. I love watching people work through their process and stuff. And so I just hope that when people hear the record, and listening to this podcast and these interviews, that they understand the love of this music that went into it. That's the most important thing, because all I want in the world is for more people to play the fiddle for longer. That's my life's work. And so I hope that having this album out there, there's more tunes to learn. There's more, there's more things to get excited about. That's what drives me. I'm so happy to be a part of this record.
Well, we're happy to be on the bandwagon and screaming and shouting behind you, okay?
We're so grateful. Thank you so much for having us, truly.
No,
thank you so much for your time, too.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Megan.
It's my pleasure, and good luck with the editing, guys. And
That's going to be part of the fail forward kind of thing. Yeah.
God, Jay has not done a second of editing.
No, not a bit.
Does he even watch or listen to our podcast after they're done?
I'm in it. I know what I said.
I'm like, man, the popping in this, and he's like, never listened to a second of the podcast. Be like, you son of a
That's
bitch.
not true. I've listened to enough to give us our ratings. I've reviewed it. I don't like hearing myself talk. You may not believe that, Cody, but I can't stand it.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's been a long time since we all first heard ourselves on the answering machine, Shay, so I'm going to
just get over it, buddy. Just
Shots fired. Get over it. That's fair.
Yeah, that was so awesome. I can't thank you enough, though. Seriously.
It's my pleasure, and it was great meeting you guys, and hopefully, maybe you'll just go to festivals anyway and just be broke, and so maybe I'll see you.
Maybe.
We're definitely going to festivals and being broke.
Yay!
But we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Megan. Bye.
See you guys later.
Bye.
All right.